UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Daniel D.C. Cormier.
Congratulations, champ. Ooh, I get to look at this twice.
When discussing other sports, the term greatest of all time, or GOAT, is simple. In basketball, many say Michael Jordan. In boxing, Muhammad Ali. For football, either Ronaldo or Messi. However, within the sport of mixed martial arts, the term GOAT gets thrown around quite a bit, with former UFC lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov recently being thrown in the mix.
This is #1 bullshit.
The top four has always remained the same, though with the spots 2 through 4 being interchangeable between Anderson Silva, GSP, and Demetrius Johnson. The coveted #1 spot is always reserved for you-know-who.
Still the undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, John Bones Jones.
Browsing the MMA scene as an MMA fan myself, I have always seen one name missing from the GOAT discussion, and I think it's remiss of fans not to mention this fighter and what he's done not only to represent the sport, but the accolades he's garnered within the sport. That man being Daniel Cormier. For those who don't know Daniel Cormier, here are the cliff notes. He is a now retired mixed martial artist born in Lafayette, Louisiana. He is also an Olympic tier wrestler, and he originally fought in Strikeforce before it was absorbed into the UFC. There are many reasons Daniel Cormier should be in the top 5 census for greatest fighter of all time, but for this video I'll shorten it to the 3 main reasons: his resume, accolades, and his character. Daniel Cormier's resume is quite extensive, starting from his Strikeforce days. Daniel Cormier really showed how good he is with his win against Antonio Bigfoot Silva, who at the time beat Fedor Emelianenko, who many considered the heavyweight GOAT. It was light work for DC, knocking out Bigfoot in the later half of the first round. After this, DC went on to fight Josh Barnett for the Strikeforce heavyweight title. Now, steroid controversy or not, Josh Barnett was a real deal, and Daniel Cormier beat him via unanimous decision. Daniel Cormier joined the UFC in 2013 and fought in both the light heavy and heavyweight divisions and went on a tear. The 4 fights he had on his way to the title, he beat the likes of Frank Mir, Dan Henderson, and Roy Nelson. DC went into his first title fight undefeated, and with the skill and dominance he showed, many thought Daniel Cormier was the one to finally beat John Bones Jones.
And his opponent, UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, John Bones Jones.
Once Jones was suspended, Daniel Cormier dominated the division, beating the likes of Anthony Johnson twice, Alexander Gustafsson, and Volkan Oezdemir. He also beat an out-of-prime Anderson Silva, but take that as you may. There was also talks of a Ryan Bader fight during one of the Anthony Johnson fights, and while that fight never happened, we all know how it would have ended.
They said, Daniel, what do you want? I said, I want the easiest fight in the division. I want Ryan Bader. I want the easiest fight in the division. I want Ryan Bader. Just give me my paychecks right now, Bader. Get your ass out of here. This is my press conference. Fuck out of here.
During this time of dominance, DC decided to step up to the heavyweight division to chase double champ status, which he ended up succeeding in doing. Daniel Cormier defeated Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title and went on to defend it once against Derek Lewis.
Derek, why'd you take your pants off?
My balls was hot.
I understand.
DC has on his resume wins against Bigfoot, Barnett, Mir, Henderson, Nelson, Rumble Johnson twice, Alexander Gustafsson, Silva, Oezdemir, Miocic, and Derek Lewis, with his only 3 losses from 2 fighters, twice from Miocic in the trilogy and once by John Jones. If you ask me, that's a pretty pog resume. I have mentioned earlier that Daniel Cormier has wrestled in the Olympics. However, I will not mention his wrestling credentials as I am talking about accolades within MMA. That being said, his wrestling accolades are praiseworthy and deserve to be acknowledged. It just doesn't fit what I'm talking about. DC's MMA accolades include being champion in Strikeforce, a 4-time light heavyweight champion in the UFC, and being a 2-time heavyweight champion as well. Many tried to downplay DC's title reign in the light heavyweight division because he never beat Jones. Jones got himself suspended for his actions. That left the entire division open for anyone to reign, and Daniel Cormier proved that he was the best out of the entire division. His title reign is legit. He proved himself by beating the top contenders in Jones's absence. Just because he never defeated Jones doesn't mean that the rest of his wins in that division were not impressive. DC outgrew the narrative that he was a paper champ by going up a weight class and claiming the heavyweight title, becoming one of the 7 to ever claim 2 titles at once in UFC history. Daniel Cormier, in all honesty, is a pretty cool dude. He is very lighthearted and has a sense of humor with his buddies at the commentary table.
You can speak to this.
Yeah, I know I've been poked in the eye, but I've poked a few dudes in the eye. I'm trying to stay out of this. Joe, I'm trying to stay out of this.
He is a great ambassador for the sport of MMA, being humble, skilled, respectful, and providing great analysis on his YouTube channel. He also has not tested positive for any performance-enhancing drugs whatsoever. It's all hard work from DC. The only real controversy DC has had, which isn't even a controversy, is his bias on commentary. In my opinion, Daniel Cormier is a pretty pod commentator from the fights I have watched. Many people point out his commentary on the Izzy Blachowicz fight, which to my knowledge, I remember it being more Rogan than DC. However, if your only controversy is being a biased commentator, then you seem like a pretty decent person to me. Daniel Cormier is one of the greatest MMA fighters to ever step inside the cage. He joined the UFC at an age that some would say is old, and he still went on a tear. He also moved down from his original weight class at heavyweight out of respect for his friend, which just shows you how good of a person he is. If he stayed at heavyweight, which I believe to be a very shallow division, he probably would have reigned over that division for the entirety of his career. If he joined a little earlier in his mid to late 20s, there is no doubt in my mind that DC would be more dominant than he already was, being able to add more title defenses to his reigns. All in all, Daniel Cormier deserves his flowers, only losing to the greatest of all time in Jon Jones and the greatest heavyweight of all time in Stipe Miocic. The Stipe losses came at the back end of his career when DC entered his 40s. Who knows? If DC was younger, maybe those fights could have ended differently. However, with that one loss over Jon Jones, it solidifies that Daniel Cormier is not only in the top 5 of MMA fighters, but that he might be the definitive number 2 fighter in history.